something feels off. The way Bakari moved in episode 10, the way people looked at him, the silence before certain scenes, it all feels like the chi is trying to tell us something. If you've been paying attention, you might have noticed it. 2. The signs are subtle, but they're there. And when you connect the dots, they all seem to point to one thing. Bakari might not make it to the end of this season. Episode 10 of season 7 gives us a lot to unpack. The energy in the air is different, tensions are high, relationships are shifting, and characters are standing at personal crossroads. But the one character who seems to carry the heaviest weight in this episode is Bakari. Let's take a quick look at where we find him. Early in the episode, Bakari is shown walking alone. Not just physically, but emotionally, he's quieter than usual. We don't see the same spark we used to. He's been trying hard to turn his life around, to separate himself from his violent past, but it's clear that peace is something he's struggling to hold on to. That's the first soft alarm bell. When a character begins to isolate, especially someone who's gone through trauma, the chi has a way of making that isolation mean something deeper. Bakari's scenes with Papa and Linny are especially important. Papa is trying to pull him back into community, back into the fold, offering him brotherhood and some kind of spiritual grounding. But Bakari doesn't lean in. He nods, he listens, but his eyes say he's somewhere else. He's haunted. That internal distance is another clue. It's not loud. It's not dramatic, but it feels final. Like he's beginning to say goodbye without actually saying the words. Then there's his interaction with Douda's world. While not directly involved in the more intense parts of the operation this episode, Bakari is very aware of what's going on, and for the first time, he seems completely unsure. The once sharp, eager to prove himself Bakari now appears hesitant, even fearful. He's thinking about the consequences in a way he didn't before. That shift in his body language, in how long he pauses before answering, is big. It's like he knows something is coming, he just can't tell when or how. There's also something about the pacing of Bakari's scenes that makes them stand out. The camera lingers a little longer on his face. The background music dips lower. When he's on screen, you might not even notice it the first time, but when you rewatch, you feel the change. It's like the show is asking us to pay closer attention to him. Almost like it's giving us time to prepare ourselves emotionally. Let's not forget the small moments too. The glance Linny gives him when he says something soft. The way Papa looks after him when he walks away. The way he hugs someone a little longer than normal. These are all clues that writers use to tell us something is about to shift. And if you've been watching the chi for a while, you know that this show doesn't waste screen time. Everything means something. Though, when you stack all these moments together, the quiet walks, the heavy stares, the subtle camera work, it starts to look less like just another episode and more like a goodbye tour for Bakari. But we're only just getting started. In the next section, we'll break down the hidden symbols and the foreshadowing details that give us a much deeper look into why his story might be coming to a tragic end. Foreshadowing is something that Chi does masterfully. The writers rarely throw surprises at the audience without giving them small signs first. These clues are often quiet and emotional, not loud or obvious. And episode 10 is full of these small but powerful signals, especially around BAKRI.*1, symbolism in backgrounds and costumes. Let's start with the environment. Throughout episode 10, Bakari is often placed in dark or empty settings. He walks through alleyways. He sits in shadowy corners. There's even a moment where he walks past a wall covered in graffiti. And if you pause the scene, you'll notice that one of the tags literally says RIP. That kind of detail isn't an accident. It's subtle, but it's meant to register somewhere in your mind. Then there's the color red. Bakari is shown wearing red or standing near red lights multiple times in this episode, in film and TV. Red often symbolizes danger, death, or blood. In earlier episodes, Bakari wore more neutral colors. showing he was trying to stay out of trouble. But now, the red feels like a warning, almost like the color is following him. Asterisk, and it's not just about what's around him, it's what's missing too. There's a scene where other characters are laughing, eating, vibing, and Bakari is just outside that frame, not part of the joy. When a character is emotionally disconnected like that, it often means they're carrying something heavy, or they won't be around much longer to enjoy peace. Asterisk 2. Dialogue with deeper meaning. Asterisk, there are also small lines of dialogue that hit harder. On second listen, one of the most important is when Bakari tells Papa, "I don't know if I'm meant to be saved." That line might sound like a throwaway moment, but it's loaded. It shows that Bakari sees himself as someone beyond redemption, like he's already given up on a future. Asterisk later, Linny says something that sounds sweet on the surface. "You're not alone, B," but the way Bakari reacts, he doesn't smile. Doesn't speak, just lowers his eyes and nods. That's not comfort, that's grief. Like he knows what's coming. And he's just grateful someone cares before it happens. Asterisk, even when others talk around him, there's a pattern. A lot of characters in this episode bring up second chances, lost brothers, or past mistakes. It feels like a cloud is hanging over the group. Everyone is looking backward or praying for someone to survive something. These aren't casual conversations, they're emotional setups. And often in storytelling, emotional setups lead to loss. Asterisk 3. Camera choices and emotional framing. Asterisk, let's talk about how Bakari is filmed. When a character is being foreshadowed for death, directors often isolate them in the frame. In episode 10, Bakari is often shown either completely alone or with his back to the group. There are wide shots where he's standing still while everything moves around him. That visual cue gives us a sense of someone being left behind or someone who won't move forward with the rest of the cast. Asterisk, one particularly haunting moment is when Bakari is framed behind a window pane, almost like he's locked in. It's a blink and you'll miss it shot. But those glass shots often mean a character is on the edge of being removed either from the storyline or from life. There's a loneliness to how his scenes are lit and staged. You can feel something ending, even if you can't explain why. Asterisk 4. Echoes from past deaths in the Chi. Asterisk, one of the Kai's deepest storytelling techniques is pattern. When you look at how the show built up to Brandon's death or Kugi's death, the same tools were used: soft emotional distance, silent moments, poetic language, and peaceful music right before the violence. Asterisk, Bakari's current arc mirrors those past characters almost beat for beat. Brandon tried to pull away from the streets. He wanted a better life. He wanted love, peace, and purpose. But the past didn't let him go. That same conflict is growing inside Bakari now. When a show starts using the same rhythm, it's usually on purpose. Asterisk, Bakari has never been a flat character. From the moment he was introduced, his story has been full of conflict, pain, and hope. He's one of the few characters who's carried the full weight of what the Chi is really about: survival, redemption, and what it means to grow up in a place that doesn't always give you room to grow. Asterisk, at his core, Bakari is a kid who wants more out of life. He's tired of running. He's tired of being feared. He wants to be seen as more than just the kid with a gun or the one with a past. That's what makes him such a tragic figure. Because the moment a character in a world like the Chi wants peace, that's usually when trouble comes knocking. Asterisk, let's rewind a bit and look at where he started. Bakari was introduced as a reckless, angry young man. He had been pulled into the streets early and carried trauma that wasn't just his own, it was inherited from the system around him. His violence didn't come from nowhere. It came from fear, from abandonment, from having no one. That's what made his transformation in later seasons so powerful. Slowly, we saw him soften. We saw him try. Asterisk, when he met Linny, something shifted. She didn't treat him like a criminal. She didn't look at him with fear. She saw him. And that kind of love, especially for someone like Bakari, isn't just healing. It's dangerous because it gives him something to lose. That's one of the oldest rules in storytelling. Once a broken character finds hope, they either change forever or die trying to protect it. In Season 7, Bakari has been trying hard to stay out of trouble. He's working, he's talking more openly, and he's been surrounding himself with people like Papa who want to uplift him. But the problem is, the Chi doesn't let its characters evolve without consequence. Growth in this world is risky, and for someone like Bakari, who's deeply tied to Doubt's operation and has a history of violence, trying to walk the line between street life and real life is like walking through fire barefoot. The big question we have to ask is, has Bakari completed his arc? That's a tough one. On one hand, no, there's still so much more he could become. He could go to college, start a real relationship, become a leader in his community. But on the other hand, the version of Bakari we see now feels complete. He's made peace with a lot of things. He's told people he loves them. He's admitted his pain. He's tried to make things right. Writers often look at this moment when a character reaches emotional clarity as the most finished version of them. And sometimes that's exactly when they're taken out of the story. Not as punishment, but as impact, a completed arc is a writer's way of saying this story was always going to end here. And let's not forget, Bakari is still walking around with the guilt of past choices. His involvement in previous violence, his connection to Doubt's crimes. And even though he's trying to leave that behind, you can't ignore the reality of the world he lives in. People in the Chi don't often get to outrun their past. You also have to look at what his death would do to the story. It would be a turning point. Linny would be crushed. Papa would lose faith again. Even characters like Victor and Emmett, who've been trying to build safer communities, would be forced to face the truth. Change is hard. And sometimes it comes at a cost. Bakari's loss would shake the entire structure of the season. It would remind viewers that redemption is fragile and that even when you're doing everything right, you can still lose. That message, as painful as it is, fits perfectly within the Kai's emotional universe. When a show like The Chi builds tension this quietly, the fanbase always starts to feel it first. You don't need a character to get shot on screen to know something's about to happen. Sometimes the silence is the loudest warning. And if you've been scrolling through Reddit, TikTok, or X, formerly Twitter, you'll see that many fans are picking up on the same thing. Bakari's days might be numbered. Let's start with the conversation happening online. After episode 10 aired, a lot of posts were asking the same question. Why does Bakari feel like a goodbye? Viewers mentioned how he lingered in scenes too long, how his words felt like closure, and how his energy felt off like someone who's carrying weight he knows he can't shake. One user even pointed out that his hug with Linny felt like a final moment, not just a random emotional beat. Others are digging deeper into behind-the-scenes content. Some fans noticed that in recent cast interviews, the actor who plays Bakari has been unusually quiet, while other cast members have been active in promoting the rest of the season. Bakari's actor hasn't shared much. That doesn't confirm anything, of course, but in this era of social media, silence often speaks volumes. Fans are trained to notice when someone goes off the radar right before a big character death. There's also been speculation based on the official trailers and episode previews. In the teaser for the next episode, there's barely a shot of Bakari. That's strange, especially considering how central he's been lately. When a main character suddenly goes missing from the promos, it usually means one of two things. Major twist is coming involving them, or they're already gone. It's the kind of creative silence that tells you to brace yourself. A few fans are even comparing this to how Brandon's death was handled back in earlier seasons. Before Brandon was killed off, the vibe around him changed. He got more scenes alone. He talked more about his past. He pulled away from people emotionally. Now, those exact same patterns are showing up around Bakari, and fans are connecting. Some deeper theories go into symbolism too. On platforms like YouTube and TikTok, creators are breaking down visual clues. One theory points to the way Bakari is framed in mirrors throughout the episode. Mirrors often symbolize reflection or the soul in film language, and showing a character's reflection multiple times before their death is a cinematic trick used in everything from The Wire to Breaking Bad. The Chi might be using that same visual code. Another fan theory says that Bakari's death is necessary to shift the energy of the show. With tensions growing around Dauda and many characters starting to question their place in the streets versus real life, a loss like Bakari's would be the emotional jolt that pushes people to finally take action. His death wouldn't just be sad, it would be a narrative tool, one that changes the game. And perhaps the most heartbreaking theory of all? That Bakari knows it's coming, that he's already accepted it. Fans point to the way he stares off in certain scenes, like he's preparing for something. Not escaping it, not fighting it, but embracing it. That quiet acceptance is what makes this theory so strong, because it matches not just what we see, but what we feel when we watch him. So with fans picking up on all these small details from scene analysis to social media silence, it's hard not to see a pattern forming. The community isn't just speculating for drama's sake. They're sensing the rhythm of the Chi, and that rhythm is starting to sound like a goodbye song for Bakari. So, what are we really looking at here? When you lay it all out, the way Bakari's story has evolved, the foreshadowing in the visuals and dialogue, the eerie silence around him both in universe and online, it stops feeling like a theory and starts feeling like inevitable storytelling. This isn't just about one emotional episode. It's about the entire weight of Bakari's arc pointing toward a specific end, one that feels meaningful, heartbreaking, and unfortunately, final. We've seen this pattern before. The Chi has always used its most emotionally rich characters to drive home its biggest themes. Think about it, Brandon was more than just a cook trying to make it, he represented hope. Cookie was more than just a kid on a bike, he was innocence caught in the crossfire. Bakari, he's survival. He's what it looks like when someone tries to climb out of the hole they were thrown into at birth, but in the Chi, survival has a cost. And the story keeps reminding us of that. What makes this even harder to accept is how much Bakari has grown. He's tried to better himself. He's tried to love and be loved. And that's exactly why his death, if it happens, would hit so hard. Not just because we like him, but because he represents possibility. And losing him would mean losing a version of hope the show has been building slowly over time. But let's not forget, the Chi also loves to surprise us. Maybe all of this foreshadowing is meant to scare us, to make us feel the danger Bakari is in so that when he survives, we appreciate it more. Maybe this is one of those moments where the writers want to test our faith. And if that's the case, then Bakari's path forward could be just as powerful. Maybe not through death, but through a symbolic loss, like walking away from everyone, or going into hiding. Still, all signs right now point to a tragic shift. The weight of emotion in episode 10, the visual language, the way people interact with him, it all feels like goodbye. So whether Bakari lives or dies, one thing is clear. The show is preparing us for a change, a loss, a turning point. If he dies, it will shake the cast, the community, and the direction of the story. If he survives, it won't be without scars. Either way, the Chi is asking us to pay attention to Bakari, to the messages, and to what comes next. If you've made it this far, I want to hear what you think. Do you think the show is really setting us up for Bakari's death? Or is this just another emotional misdirection? Drop your theories in the comments. Let's talk. If you found this breakdown helpful or eye-opening, hit that like button. It helps more people find these deep dives. And if you don't want to miss the next breakdown or reaction, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. And remember, on the chi, nobody's future is ever guaranteed. Asterisk.